Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, pitching the second in a double hitter today. Today has been the day of technical difficulties. I've been having trouble with my lights. I've been having trouble with my camera. I've been having trouble with Riverside. We've moved over to Zoom. Today I have with me Max Cho, co-founder and CEO at Coverage Cat. Max, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
It's going well, and I tell a lot of people, if you have a lot of problems in your life and you want to have some more, just add some software, and boy, you can easily add some more problems to your life.
Okay, fantastic. So according to LinkedIn, you are in New York City. So
That's
assuming
right.
that you're actually in New York City, I'm sitting in Buenos Aires, Argentina right now. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm at my summer Airbnb, so to speak, in Buenos Aires. And in Buenos Aires, it's winter right now. So I've been watching the news of how the entire Western Hemisphere is on fire, while down here we're having 55-degree sunny days in winter, which I'm told is unseasonably warm, but it is super nice.
That
So
sounds
New
like a
York
great plan.
City,
Maybe I should be in Buenos Aires by tomorrow as well.
more than welcome to come visit. I'm telling this to everybody. Come visit. It's incredible. It's super. It's expensive to get here, but super awesome once you're here. There are direct flights from New York. I think they're 11 hours. It's 9 hours from Atlanta. I'm assuming that on July 27, 2023, in a record-breaking hot year, I'm assuming that New York is like 90 degrees now, like for the last week or so.
I think it's 95 today, but if you have the misfortune to be like me and take a bike to your meetings, it feels more like 100 maybe.
Do you like get to a meeting and like run into their gym to shower?
Okay, so if we're being really honest here, you gotta impress somebody, but you also gotta take a bite, which is the fastest way to get around New York. The answer is wet wipes. It just
Okay.
maybe I shouldn't say this on a
No, I have always
podcast, but the
wondered
answer is
I love New York, but I've never lived in New York. I lived in San Jose, Costa Rica, Des Moines, Iowa, a bunch of Midwestern cities, Atlanta, Georgia. So the idea of biking to work or biking to a meeting makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad people do it. But between the winters of Iowa, where I lived for 10 years, and the summers of Arizona, where I lived for a few months, and the summers in Atlanta, which are brutal, like I've always wondered how, like if I were to bike to a meeting, and I'm way out of shape, if I were to bike to a meeting, I would be a gigantic mess when I got there, regardless of the weather, right? So yeah, with 95-degree weather, I definitely wonder. So before we go too far off the rails, I always give the guests two things that the guests might or might not know. Number one, I do zero research on any company that we talk to, and that's on purpose. And number two, I messaged my Max yesterday, and he immediately booked a podcast recording. So good for you. And when I asked him why he booked it so quickly, he literally said, "If it's worth doing, it's worth doing now." So let's. We always give the guest the chance to do the elevator pitch. What is Coverage Cat?
Coverage Cat is the new way for personal consumers to properly insure themselves. We're a data-driven broker that knows about millions of prices and matches people's risk preferences to all of the policies that we've seen. And the key difference there is almost everyone knows that there's a better policy out there, but younger people are increasingly hesitant to deal with brokers. They don't like the hassle of a phone call. They really don't understand insurance, but they just want to buy it online. And our view is, well, there's probably a data-driven way for this to be optimal for you. And especially for folks who overbuy insurance at the low end, but underbuy at the high end. We deal with a lot of wealthy young professionals who they shopped at Geico.com and they bought the state minimum policies. This is the kind of disaster.
Let me quickly pause you there. So I was taking notes furiously, and it sounded really interesting, but I didn't catch it. So people overbuy at the low end, underbuy at the high end. Is that, was that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so we're talking to a group of insurance professionals here. So I think I don't need to extol to you that insurance has to be done in consideration of how much of a risk are you willing to take on, and how much liability are people likely to go after. There's no blood from a stone.
Yes.
And I think smart brokers in the business have been doing this for their clients for years. But as we transition in the consumer world to fewer and fewer people seeking out brokers, we have to find a new way to actually properly match the policies that people are buying to what they really need.
Okay. So this is already interesting. By the way, I kind of assumed that you were in the catastrophe space because of the word cat. In my insurance brain,
That is okay. First of all, I want to say thank you for getting that. This is one of the few so we straddle the line between tech people and insurance people. And for insurance people, I wanted it to be about cat because I believe insurance is at its best when it's about catastrophes. But for tech people, the joke is that it's the Unix command cat, which is for concatenating elements of things. And our view on insurance is that by concatenating different things, you can produce a better outcome than individually, or for many of our clients, for instance, rather than holding individual auto policies, it makes more sense to have lower quality auto policies and a much better umbrella policy.
So I absolutely love the fact. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, a palindrome is a word that if you turn it around, like if you flip it around, it reads the same. Okay, so this is like the palindrome of nerdy names because it's nerdy for different reasons, both in the insurance and in the tech space, and I can't love that. Also, I do have to say the anime style what's orange cat with the white mark on its face is very cute.
Well, you have to be cute to succeed in consumer insurance. So that's
perfect.
the third criteria. Oh,
Yeah.
When we were creating the company, we had a list of like insurance related terms and cute animals, and then which domain names were available, and that was our method of figuring out what
recently. So my day job, I run a little recruiting firm that does nothing but insurance and insure tech, and so for a while I was the insure tech guy at a very traditional insurance brokerage, and basically I was only sales, and then the recruiters were a separate team, and the recruiters were always laughing at the company names that I brought in, right? Because they were used to working with very traditional insurance names, and I'm bringing in very, very insurtech names, which were like animals, like hippo, lemonade, so they would take bets on what ridiculous name I would bring in next, right? So I've actually had the conversation recently with founders, like why did you name it that, right? And the answer is exactly what you said: is everything else is trademarked, every other domain name is taken, so like we have to choose random names. Okay, perfect, I get it. So yeah, coverage cat is a cute one. So out of the things that you said, okay, a few things already kind of got my brain going. Okay, so the new way for consumers to properly insure themselves, perfect. I love the property, the properly insure yourself, because a lot of the early insure tech plays correctly recognized what you're saying, that millennials and Gen Zers don't want to deal with a broker. And they don't think of a broker. They think of Geico.com or right. But the problem is the early insurtechs and Geico and Progressive were very good at price shopping. They weren't good at all. They weren't even thinking about coverage. So you actually use the keyword properly insured, not just the cheapest, but properly insured. So right there, like you had me at hello with that one. Then you called the organization a data-driven broker. So okay, I like that, and clearly I'm having camera troubles today. A data-driven broker. Cool. We're doing well. Okay. So millions of prices, risk preference, matching to people risk preferences. Okay, that speaks to me, right? Okay. how are you guys different from, and I might be playing devil's advocate here. How are you different from the Lemonades of the world?
Well, first of all, Lemonade's a carrier. They're only going to sell you lemonade things.
Fair
So
enough.
that's the biggest problem,
Mm-hmm.
number one. And we have a lot of clients who come to us from Lemonade, and their life situation has evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And what they have chosen to buy from Lemonade has not, because they never understood the thing that they were buying from Lemonade in the first
Mm-hmm.
place.
Yeah, Lemonade calls them
And
alumni, which is kind of hilarious. Um, it,
that's generous. I think people have a little bit more fondness for their alma mater than for their rental insurer, but
that is
maybe
very
maybe not.
correct. Yes. Okay. So how is it different from the many price-driven tools that InsurTech 1.0 saddled us with?
Well, I think the first thing is, if those things worked perfectly, maybe Coverage Cat wouldn't need to exist.
Uh-huh.
But if you've actually shopped for insurance, you know that those tools let you down.
Yes.
And in
Yes.
particular, they let you down by not showing you the options that are really appropriate for you, and especially for higher net worth people, not actually showing you what you should be buying.
Okay. So
And go ahead.
so successful high net worth millennials, urban uh professionals, yes, going to a Lemonade or even to a price focused shop, they're likely putting themselves at risk, right? They're going to end up with minimum coverage, with minimum liability.
With absolute sincerity, like I see, okay, let me just give you a client that we
Yeah, yeah,
recently
absolutely.
saw. $2 million net worth, driving a pretty nice Mini Cooper. He has collision and comprehensive coverage, a $500 deductible, and what's his bodily injury limit? It's $30,000.
Okay, so the Cooper, he could go without collision, but the
Absolutely.
liability, he's basically going naked on the liability.
Yeah, and I asked him, like, how did you choose to buy this? He bought it from an online website that shall remain nameless, I guess. And he was like, "Oh well, I knew I needed to get full coverage," which of course I think we all know is already warning flag number one. And he's
Uh-huh.
like, "So I got that, but then I just figured that it wasn't that likely I was going to get in a crash."
And it
And
isn't.
so you're just like,
Yeah, it isn't likely, but if it happens, right, there's a reason the umbrella is cheap. It's because it's unlikely to get pierced. But
right. And just to be clear, this is not this guy's fault. I don't think normal people should need to know the details of what's going on under your coverages, but this is clearly a symptom of the disease that we've built in how people, people choose themselves and they
Mhm.
make poor choices.
Okay, okay. So coverage kind of actually goes out of its way to figure out the coverage that I actually need, not just the cheapest price for me.
I would say that we ask the missing questions. We
Okay.
ask you how much liquid money you have and how much you're comfortable losing. And then we also ask you about your net worth and how much of a likely target for litigation that might make you. And that totally enables us to offer a much more holistic perspective. And by
Okay.
combining that, by not just looking at a single car's auto insurance, but also at your other situations, maybe you have land, maybe you're a landlord, maybe you have some other properties, that enables us to produce a better outcome. In the same way, by the way, just to be clear here, a spectacular individual broker, I'm sure
Mhm.
you've worked with a great indie broker before in
Mhm.
your life, those
Mhm.
people also do this fantastically. This is just our view of, can we do this at scale automatically in the way that these buyers want to buy?
Yeah, no. So I don't think I've ever done this in the show before, but we're not live, so this doesn't work, or you ask me to we can cut it out later. But this is kind of a really cool idea. Okay, so here is Coverage Cat. So I literally went to Google. I Googled Coverage Cat, took me here. Okay. By the way, super cute. How much cat? How much cash could I afford to lose in a disaster and still feel financially secure? Okay, so in my world, I'm okay. A $5,000 deductible doesn't kill me. It would hurt, but
Right.
it doesn't kill me. Okay.
And in fact, by the way, I think it probably should hurt. I think for most people, the right level of insurance
I
is the
agree. I
point at
agree.
which you feel
Yes.
a little uncomfortable.
Yes. 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 Yeah. It should avoid the moral hazard of yeah, yeah, completely. Okay. So okay. Um okay. Total value of assets. Okay. That's I don't own a home. It's basically 401k kind of thing. Let's call it 100 to 250. Uh, okay. Uh, I do have a car. I don't have a home. Uh, okay. I'm risk averse. I work in insurance. I know that I need an umbrella. I don't have a pet. I do rent. Okay. Cool. Okay. You can of course delete this quote afterwards if you want on the back end. Okay. Parked in a garage. Okay. So yeah, I'm not gonna be able to get through because I don't have the VIN, and if I had it, I wouldn't put it on there. Okay, perfect. So we'll stop here. But so after I do that, what happens?
So one of the key things that we use is we have a database of basically every price that Coverage Cat has observed across many different parameters. And we do this, for home and for auto. There's less price variation in umbrella for a variety of reasons. But we go and we match from that list of predicted prices across all the carriers we've observed. We say, okay, Tony's okay losing $10,000 or $5,000. I don't remember what you actually marked on the form.
Yeah,
You're okay losing
2 to 5. Yeah.
$5,000. And so what does it end up looking like? Which are the carriers that are best going to match that kind of risk preference while offering you whatever 2 million in coverage or whatever? I don't remember what you ended up looking for. And that leads us to a place where we're able to say, oh, this is the right set of, we believe that, let's just pick out of the hat here. We're like, oh, carrier A is most likely going to offer you the best policy.
Mhm.
Here's the second quote from them, and here's why we think it might be better than your existing policy. So that's the core experience. You get back a returned answer of Coverage Cat believes this is the optimal set of insurance for you and why it's better than what you currently have.
Is it always a bindable quote, or is there a chance that it needs to be underwritten on the back end?
So it's a two-phase process, and for some of the time, we actually will point you to carriers that we cannot represent. So Coverage Cat, because we're an insane startup, will point you to what we think is best for you, even if we can't sell it to you. So let's say, hypothetically, State Farm is your best option. I cannot sell you a State Farm policy. I'm never going to be able to sell you a State Farm policy. So at that point, I'm just going to be like, based on the history of prices we've observed, State Farm's your best bet. Here's their website. Knock yourself out. But these are the coverages we'd recommend. And that's a little crazy. And so that would not be a bindable quote. That's just us.
That's a little crazy for your VC. But from my perspective, both as a consumer and as an insurance professional, I love you for that.
And that's our view on it. That's exactly right.
If I went through and Coverage Cat tells me I can't sell it to you today or tomorrow, but really the best choice for you is X, you can call me an alumni. You can call me an ambassador. Right? Because I'm actually going to tell people about it. And of course, the problem is that the final consumer won't realize that you've done them a favor and made no money from it. Right? But as an insurance professional, I do.
Yeah, I'm going to take a completely insane position here and say that the customer not caring that we did them that favor is right. Like the customer is who cares whether what our belief position was. Our goal is just to build the kind of website that I wish existed to shop for insurance, the one that shows you everything and actually does that.
Love it. Okay, I'm a believer. I do have to say, number one, I've been talking about somebody doing this since the beginning of InsurTech. I've been saying, can somebody please do this for personal lines with coverage first? Right? Now, I did not put it in as good terms as you did in like data-driven optimization. But I've been waiting for this for like 7 years. So
The data-driven optimization is actually both very hard and key,
I would
because
guess.
I think anyone who's been in this business knows that there's work in doing insurance. There's genuine like work in moving the things around and figuring out the prices and getting all the paperwork in order. And that means it's a money-losing business unless you can find a way to do that kind of work automatically. And that's the part that maybe we're crazy enough to bite off here.
Okay. I already love what you're doing. I love the branding of how you're doing it. How did you get here? And the reason I'm asking that is because according to LinkedIn, because I'm always interested in the origin story. According to LinkedIn, you've been doing this for a year and a half. So you are a baby in the insurance industry, basically. And I look at your background, BA in cognitive science from Yale, master's in computer science from University of Washington. Your last role before insurance, you were a senior product manager at Google. Before that, product manager at Two Sigma. Before that, a program manager at Microsoft. How did you end up deciding, I'm gonna build a lemonade competitor? I'm gonna do lemonade right. How did you end up deciding I'm gonna build an
Well,
insurtech?
first of all, let me just say, we are not building the Lemonade competitor. Lemonade is a great choice for many of our customers, and we point them to Lemonade when appropriate. So
Fair
let me
enough.
just first off say that.
Fair enough.
Secondly, I mean, this is actually a question. I mean, I would say sometimes at family gatherings, perhaps some of my relatives would phrase it a little bit more rudely. They'd be like, "You quit what
Did
you
you
were
go
doing to
insane?
do what?"
Yeah.
So thanks, Ants, I love you. But nonetheless, I think it is kind of a wild story.
So hold on,
And
hold on. So, okay, I'm Latino. I'm gonna take a wild guess that you're Asian, and I am very
yeah.
much imagining a tiger mom or the aunties from Seeing Red, like just like very lovingly going like, "Oh my God, he's lost his mind. What do you mean you're
Well,
leaving
okay.
Google?"
Let me just say, working at Google, working at Two Sigma, and working at Microsoft were fantastic. I am incredibly grateful for the opportunities that those companies gave me. If you're listening to this and you're like, should I go take a job at Google? Would it be fun? Yeah, it'll be really fun. Like the work that I did there, I would never get a chance to do again in my life. But personally, I have struggled with insurance. When I was a teenager, I knocked out my teeth at a party in high school, and I had to go replace them. And I got really good at reading insurance policies to kind of just maximize the benefit for which at one point. So this is a totally crazy story. I convinced an oral surgeon to split a procedure over Jan 1 to get a double dip on a calendar year benefit. And he said, I've never heard of any teenager trying to do this. And so I got good at reading insurance policies. And I just said, okay, the devil is always in the details of the policies and nobody's reading it. And why can't we just do better for people here by actually building software that matches what people really need here? And the beautiful part about making financial software, which I love, obviously, if I worked at Two Sigma, a hedge fund, I love financial software. And I love financial software because in the real world, writing programs is really hard because the real world defies all laws and reason. Like physics is too hard of a system to emulate. But finance is just words on a piece of paper that describe what the program should do. And I'm like, oh, great, that's much more amenable. It's still hard. It's definitely still hard, but that's much more amenable to programming. So if you get an opportunity to go want to do something with information, with data, and it really helps people, that minimizes the risks in their life, well, I was like, insurance has got to be where it's at. Actually, one of the first investors in Coverage Cat was the person who hired me at Two Sigma. And it was the end of the job interview. If you ever interviewed there, you know, it's like, 6 or 8 hours of interviews. You're really tired. And at the end of the interview, it's just like, if we didn't hire you today, what would you go do as a business? And I said, oh, I'd start an insurance company. And he thought that was the weirdest answer for a 25-year-old to say.
How, how did you knock your teeth out in high school? I just can't get over that.
Uh, I wish it was like a great story. I mean, like I should just lie. At this point, I should just lie and say that it was a
Did
great
you like
story. But
just slip in
no,
the snow in New York and get the ice?
we were running a piggyback race and I tripped and and the friend landed on my head and like all of their body weight fell on my head onto the asphalt and I knocked out my,
That's a
it was
pretty
a
good
good
story.
time.
That's not a bad one.
It's not. I mean, I'll come up with a more noble lie in the future, but
Okay.
accidents happen. I think all of us in insurance know accidents happen. And I think the thing that frustrates us the most, two things that frustrate us: when the customer bought a thing that the customer believes protected them, but they bought the wrong thing and it doesn't.
And it
And it
happens
all the
all
time,
the time. All
all
the
the time.
time. Yeah.
And there's nothing so just disappointing as seeing them say, I thought I was protected from this catastrophe. What happened? That drives me
Absolutely.
nuts. I
And
mean, when I think about like what motivates me about making this product, that is that. And then the number two thing is, of course, insurance that is insurance in name only. Insurance that, by the rules and by the standards of the insurance, will never actually protect you from catastrophe. And dental insurance is one of those categories.
yeah. So it's been a year and a half. You've lost your mind. You hit your head hard enough. You left Google and started an insure tech. Year and a half in, what's it actually been like working within the insurance space compared to what you thought it would be?
Well, so some things met my expectations spectacularly. Before starting this company, I did not own a printer, and now I am proud to say I own a fax machine. So like
so what is it like in 2022 trying to buy a fax machine in New York City?
it was actually incredible. I gotta say, someone is losing money on this business because I went to bestbuy.com and I clicked on buying a fax machine and it said, when do you want it? And there was an option that said same day free. And I was like, there's no way this is possibly gonna happen. So I clicked same day free. And if you're, by the way, if you're buying a fax machine in 2022, you need it that day. Like you're buying it for a crisis.
You're gonna return it later that day, yeah.
There's never a future problem you're buying a fax machine for. Anyway, so I click this button, and 2 hours later, a guy on a bicycle shows up at my doorstep.
So a New York bike messenger brought the fax machine.
Bought a fax machine to me, yeah. I'm pretty confident some company lost money on that transaction because there's no way that was.
Hold on, did you even have a landline to plug the damn thing to?
Fortunately, the apartment is wired for that RJ jack. We're good. But wow, I mean, so starting an insurance company in 2022 is nuts. And I think it's been especially nuts when you consider the landscape of property and casualty in the US right now. I think, where were we just reading? The hardest market in US personal P&C in maybe 20, 30 years. So you've got to be a real idiot. Blessedly, that's something that I've been given in just tremendous quantities. And we see this as an opportunity. We all know that the hardest thing to do is to shake people out of how they're already solved this problem. And I promise you, every American has already solved the problem of insurance, or they're driving dirty, which I don't know. Yeah, that's a different story.
Okay. I get what you're saying. Like everybody has to have it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so how do you take all these people who've already established a way that they're happy with doing this thing, maybe not happy, but they're doing this thing, and shake them out of it? Well, we think maybe we're just totally nuts, but we think the hard market's an opportunity here.
But yes, every recession is an opportunity. Every hard market is an opportunity. Absolutely. 100%, without question, it is. I've done, I don't know, 400 of this. Profits and Risk has had like 450 episodes that we've recorded. I took over at episode 185, so I've done like 200 and some episodes. And I don't ever remember not knowing what to ask next. And in this case, truly, I don't know what to ask next, because normally I'm asking basically, why should brokers distribute your product? This is not broker distributed. Or I'm asking, why should carriers play with you guys? And how does it? Yeah. So why should, if I'm a carrier and you're already sending me business, because if it's the best fit, uh, you'll send it to me even though I don't pay you a commission. Why should I play with you? Like, why should I appoint you?
You should appoint us because a lot of our customers don't actually care about saving an extra $100 a year. They care about getting the job done. And it's easier for us to sell a product we're appointed with. So I'll tell people, oh, Geico's your best bet. It's going to actually be the best for you. Go to Geico and buy it yourself. And they'll tell me, what's the thing that you have that you can just take care of with for me today?
Gotcha. Yes, and go to Geico, buy it yourself. You'll have to refill in your information and do that whole mess again, and I might be wrong. Okay. So perfect. So, are the carriers playing ball? Do you have the carriers you want?
The perfect version of Coverage Cat is appointed with every carrier in the world. So
The
no, we don't
perfect.
have every carrier in the
Okay.
world. We don't have every carrier in the world. We've got enough spectacular options that I think we can make it work. But yeah, do I wish that I was appointed with everyone? Do I wish I could make their lives of my customers even easier? Yes, but you know, that's a long road, and some people are not interested in talking to you until you've been around long enough and you're doing a book of business big enough that they are able to, you know, believe that you exist as a company.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm incredibly grateful for the carriers that we do work with who are willing to take a bigger view of like, oh, maybe there's an opportunity here, even though these guys are run by this Yahoo who's only been out of whatever in the insurance business a year.
Oh, guaranteed. Like in your case, you get the halo effect of Google, the halo effect of Yale. Good for you. And they think you're a baby, because I'm 40 and they think I'm a teenager. So they think you're a baby, no question about it. Okay. So I have never asked this question.
We can get you some Photoshop for the hair. Next time you need to go get invited to a conference, we'll get you some streaks of gray and a very conservative cut, and no one's
perfect. Cost of acquisition. Okay, so cost of acquisition. I'm sure you've had this conversation 10,000 times with the VCs as just trying to raise money. If you're going after a high net worth audience, right? If the bread and butter is your high net worth urban professional that is younger than 40, or like millennial and Gen Z high net worth urban professional, that sounds like a really expensive cost of acquisition to me. How are you getting them to download the app, or how are you getting them to Coverage Cat to quote?
Well, the job I did before coming to start Coverage Cat at Google was taking Google's massive canon of billions of dollars of advertising spend and trying to answer the question with software products about when those advertisements actually changed people's behavior. And I think, you know, all of us listening to this perhaps like the brand Google, think good things about Google. But if you've ever worked at a mega corporation, I think all of us know that corporations are insanely inefficient, that wild, horrible things go on at massive corporations at scale. And the lesson that I learned, among many lessons, was that I think new entrants to the market might look at, let's say, Progressive and say, Progressive spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year on this topic, on marketing in this way. Surely they've built an impregnable fortress that works perfectly. But there's opportunity. There's still things slipping through the cracks, and that's what we see. And actually, when you're smaller, when you're more nimble, you have more opportunity to capitalize on that.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Are you from New York City originally?
I grew up in Seattle.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been a lot of fun. I look forward to seeing you guys grow. I look forward to seeing you guys pivot if you pivot. Look forward to have you back on the podcast. As you guys continue. This has
If you're let me just say one shout out to the folks listening. If you're from a carrier and you want to work with us, hit me up. I'm always interested in talking to carriers, especially about totally standard products and totally weird things. We love the weird things too. And if you're from a broker and you like the message that we're talking, Coverage Cat, we do hire people. So send me a note and let me know
well
if you want to.
played. Very, very, very well played. Carrier people. I wrote the book on millennials in insurance, not as customers, but as employees. A lot of ink has been spilled even before I was born about the death of the insurance agent. And I don't think that the insurance agent goes away. But millennials and Gen Zers don't care about having an agent because they don't know how important it is to have the right coverage. And ultimately, as an insurance professional, what I care about is that they have the right coverage. I don't care if they bought it with a broker or not. Before this conversation, in my opinion, the best way to get the right coverage was call an independent agent. But this is an interesting one. How long before you guys are all 50 states?
I think that depends a little bit. Frankly, if we can't make it work in these 5, we probably can't make it work at all. But for partnership reasons, there's probably a legitimate reason for us to expand to 50 just for, there's certain kinds of media work that you couldn't do otherwise.
And why did you choose the hardest states?
Well, both we see opportunity in the challenge. Like people, if buying insurance is easy, people are not going to go. You have to be wild to go and trust some crazy unnamed startup that you've never heard of, that you've never thought about. So we think challenge is an opportunity. But actually, the largest simple reason is if you're a younger, wealthier person, odds are you live in one of those states.
It's very true. Very, very. Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome. Great chatting with you today. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Tony.
Come back and tell us how it goes.
We'll come back. Maybe the market will deteriorate far further, and then we can come back and just have we'll only drink shots and just complain bitterly.
Okay. You would not be the first person to come on the podcast and a year later no longer be in insurance, but you would be the first person to come back on the podcast to tell the story of running the thing into the ground. And I would love that. So I hope that's not the case. I hope that we're having a success story. I hope to see you ringing the bell of the New York Stock Exchange to open the trading day like my friend Alex Tim got to do before Ruth didn't do that well. Yes, I hope.
What I hope, Tony, is in 5 years or 10 years, the way that people buy insurance, I hope actually, maybe Coverage Cat isn't the one to succeed, but I hope people end up with what we're doing, because the status quo is not working for folks.
Yes, that's true. Absolutely. And we know it. And we don't know how to fix it. And
I know. No. Hold on. I know how to fix it.
Well, as an industry, we know it. And we can't figure out how to fix it. And 7 years into the InsurTech revolution, it is fantastic to finally hear smart, young, former Google people, and that goes from whatever, like smart, world-changing people, to be excited about a coverage-first solution, not a price solution like the many we've seen along the way. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Have a